Hi, I'm John Hart, and welcome back to Mr. America Hart. Today, this is part two of the interview that I had with three-time Mr. Olympia, Frank Zane. We discussed everything in this episode, from how powerlifting affected his bodybuilding to his real feelings about Arnold and Arnold's feelings about him. Let's see what else we cover. You're about to hear it all, but also his training and how it changed from the gym atmosphere to Zane Haven. It was called Zane Haven, where he had a training facility that he would have people come on out and train for a week or so. So it's really interesting. I hope you enjoy it. Here it comes.
So getting back just for a moment to that 76, 79 years, was there anything special about those 2 years in particular that that's really stands out to you as to how you were able to peak so well?
One thing was hanging out with powerlifters for a while. I learned the concept of slow negatives. I never did those before. Guys like Doug Young, just incredibly strong and powerful, did slow negatives, ponderous weights, especially in the bench press. I learned that from the powerlifters. I guess that's about it. The other bodybuilders have basically been my strong point. Training in the gym with same time as Arnold, Dave Draper, Columbu. It was a great atmosphere.
And I know that you were still bench pressing and squatting. Would you do deadlifts as well in your workouts or no?
Not a lot. I would do certain kinds like deadlift with a wide grip. Also deadlift with a wide grip from the knees up. More for shaping and shape than setting records.
Right. And would you strive annually to be a little bit stronger? I know some of these are basic questions for you, but a lot of the guys don't know, and they're happy continuing doing what they're doing, So the simple double progression method of doing more weight, more reps, that type of a thing, in your mind, annually, you were keeping great records. So was this a goal of yours? If this year you were able to, say, top deadlift 400 pounds, that next year you'll be shooting for a little bit more? Or was it just, I'm satisfied with that and maybe rest a little bit less between sets?
I tried to go a little heavier. Like, I think my best record was squatting with Arnold one year. He was never the best squatter in the world, and I was pretty good at it. And one day at Gold's Gym, we were squatting, and he did 8 reps with 405, and I did 10 reps with 405. And so I got him on that. But we always had good camaraderie, in the gym when we were training.
So now, speaking of Arnold and the competitiveness right there in the gym training with him, I was at World Gym in the mid 80s myself, and then Gold's Gym as well. And Arnold personally with me, I saw him very friendly, great personality, magnetic personality when he really wanted to turn it on. And then, at times a little bit different. Were you guys competitive with each other when you would be in the gym? He was very outgoing in the gym. It seems like it's almost like the opposite of you in the gym.
Not so much in the gym.
He'd be focused on training.
Well, we were cooperative in the gym. We spotted each other, encouraged each other. It was even in competition, we were never competing against each other except rare occasions toward the end. I never competed against Arnold until it was like 1980. Before that, he was running the shows.
But you did compete against him once, wherein you took him down, right? Early on.
68, yeah.
And so did that ever come up between the two of you as a point of fun contention?
Yeah, he used to say, I lost Mr. Universe to a chicken with 17-inch arms. And I'm thinking, that's not exactly a compliment for you if you could lose the contest to a chicken.
Good comeback. Really good comeback. In his world, That's a great comeback. That's awesome, man. Well, I know that at least in the magazines, they always presented, the Weider magazines, they always tried to present some sort of, a little bit of a, little bit of a, rubbing up against each other, perhaps personalities wise, like there was some major contention, but it sounds like there was a lot of, friendliness in the gym with a lot of the guys. Yeah.
There was a lot of that's made up.
Yeah.
The writers always look for an edge, a point to make in the articles.
Right. At one point in the 2010s leading into the pandemic, I was a special guest on Rick Drayson's show quite a bit. I was a regular guest on his show. And so between takes, he would tell stories nonstop. And he told me at one point, he said he lived in an apartment right near you and Christine. Is that right?
I don't remember. I think Rick was more of a fly on the wall kind of guy.
Yeah.
He was there for it happening, but nobody knew he was. So he was taking notes, but he didn't enter into any of it.
Right. I know. He didn't compete. He was more into the wrestling thing at one point. And he just described the whole 70s atmosphere as being quite crazy. Do you remember that? I mean, as being a crazy time in the United States or in the West Coast, at least?
It wasn't for me.
Right.
It was normal. I went there. I tried to go to the gym all the time when there wasn't any craziness. So I get there usually before all that started to happen. So I was going at about 7 o'clock in the morning to 9, and then it started up after that.
Right.
So I didn't need that. I wanted to have, at Gold's Gym and then later World Gym, it was quiet. It was good atmosphere for focusing, and that's what I thrived on, not on having loud, blaring music and people yelling and all that stuff.
And you were probably one of the first Mr. Olympians. I mean, you had a garage gym, basically. You had a Zane Haven, right, at one point?
Well, it wasn't a garage gym. It was a small resort.
Right. And
we
what
bought
year
it 1980 to 88, I think. We had this place in Palm Springs, and it was a 6-unit motel, and we turned 2 units into the gym. It was like 700 square foot gym. It was really good. And I did a lot of training there myself those years.
Right. And did you find that the ability to train on your own, it was much better than us? You sound like that type, right? I'm the same. I like to concentrate when I work out. I don't like to be joking around with people nonstop. And I have a garage gym. I don't have a resort like you had, but I have a garage gym that's fully loaded. And so I get the best workouts with no music, doing my own thing. I mean, if I need my wife to help me with training, she's in there to help me. That's it.
It always was for me. There are times when I got somebody to train with that did my workout. And so if you got somebody that'll do your workout, that's a different story. And I managed to find situations like that on several occasions, especially right before competition. I remember one year I trained with Ulf Bengtsson, Mr. Sweden, who was very much interested in training with me and doing my routine. It was helpful to me. And, it helped me win that year.
Yeah. And I remember reading you saying that in 77 or 78, you trained with him. Was there, at one point after you were Mr. Olympia, the last one in 1979, and you attempted coming back for a couple more, there was the tendency in bodybuilding was still towards aesthetics somewhat. Yes? Would you agree with
I'd
that?
say so, up until about 1984.
Lee Haney, right?
I saw the writing on the wall in 83. Samir winning it, more or less aesthetic. Mockaway winning second place, pretty much aesthetic. Haney in third, mass monster. And then I saw the writing on the wall. I said, this is what's happening, and it's going to take over. And it did. I was fourth. And at that point, I sort of believe in omens and symbols, and I'm going for the fourth Olympia. When that happened, I said, well, there's my 4. And I knew it was all over.
That's good. That's good.
Plus, I was 41 and I had injuries. I figured I'd better off going in the direction of teaching other people how to train and,
Mm.
making a living doing that.
Right, right, right. So I have one sort of long question for you. You've emphasized supplements and vitamins and minerals your entire career. Today, the bodybuilding scene, the social media bodybuilding scene as well, which is a bunch of people who just don't compete mostly. The drug use is at an all-time high with a whole bunch of them. I mean, it's gotten wild to where they die prematurely. Uh, in recent years, both top bodybuilders have passed as well as non-competitive social media influencers. Just recently, Joe Aesthetics at age 30, Sean Roden, Mr. Olympia, in his early 40s. He was a one-time Mr. Olympia. Uh, do you see any inevitable end to bodybuilding as we know it, or what do you see the future of bodybuilding?
I don't know. I hope it's a bright one, but uh, I think it all depends on who the top champions are and what is their lifestyle, because that's who people will look up to.
Right. Your emphasis on nutrition and those supplements, like we were just talking about, it seems to fly in the face of a lot of your competitors or a lot of even the current day guys who don't seem to emphasize it at all, unless a company is paying them to. That's the only time I see them talking about any supplements, but rarely do you see anybody saying, I'm going to, work at my diet and supplement it with quite a bit of everything from you used free-form amino acids, right? I assume liver
Yes.
tablets at some point. Yes.
Yep. Liver extract, amino acids, vitamins,
And
minerals.
did you find that during your career, did it make that much of a significant difference as to perhaps a time when you did not use it? I'm talking about you versus you.
Well, it did. I made great progress, going, over the top with supplements.
Right.
It made a big
Was it
difference.
So did it help your recovery? Did you get immediate reactions from it? Was it long term? Like you can look at a whole season and go, wow, this season I did use 10 times the free-form aminos I used last season. And therefore, this is the obvious variable that was different. Is that the way you would run it?
No, I more or less build up what I was taking over time
Mm,
to optimum, like the last month before competition.
right, right. And diet-wise, you were a little bit, I mean, ahead of your time in the way, and I say this, I know the guys in the 70s were about high protein and fats, but when I say a little bit ahead of your time, uh, the carbs that you would eat, it seems like you were on a pretty good clean eating program most of the time. Like you weren't, I talked to Rick Drayson, who would hang out with, Arnold and the guys on the weekends, and he would describe it that they'd all go to a smorgasbord or eat the house down one day a week. Is that true?
I don't know, but I remember Arnold's nutritional philosophy. He said to me one day, he said, it doesn't matter what you eat, just so you eat a lot of it.
Right. But would you eat clean, meaning, other than an occasional piece of cheesecake or whatever was a favorite, would
Yeah,
you eat clean year
pretty
round?
much all the time. Yeah.
And you see, that's cool because that reminds me of, like Dorian Yates. He was very similar in keeping records and being on top of his nutrition year round. Even in the off season, he knew what he was doing down to the gram. And so is that the type of meticulous eyeball to your diet effort you made in a year round effort? Or was it through the holidays you would back off completely and not keep records?
Well, I didn't keep records all the time. It was only before competition that I did,
Mm,
like about 4 months before. But the rest of the time, I was pretty much knew what I was doing. So there was no need for that. And so I didn't do it.
would you weigh out your food during the
No,
competition? No.
no, I never did that.
So you were eyeballing it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So how would you control your carbs then? How would you know? Like I've seen your interviews, I've read your articles. If you were eating 100 grams of carbs that day, how could you be that accurate with it?
Well, the best way to do it is to ask your cell phone. hey Siri, how many grams of carbohydrate is in 2 pieces of white toast?
Right. But
You get
Siri
an
wasn't
answer.
around.
Well, I didn't do it then. I would do that now.
Right, right. So, did you find that if you obviously, the convenience of having certain measured portions of food, like you just said, a piece of toast versus, a yam, right? A yam, obviously you have to have a certain measurement on it, no?
I knew about what it was,
Yeah,
and I really didn't eat a lot of bread. I didn't eat a lot of yam either. I did have some, especially on the day of a contest. I would have baked yam, slices of baked yam with amino acids right up
yeah,
until, I had to go out on stage. That was
yeah.
one of my preferred carbs.
And how long before the show would you stop training, or would you train right up until a few days before the show?
Usually 2 days before I'd stop, like on a Wednesday. Then Thursday I'd sunbathe and pose a lot. Friday the same.
Right.
And then Saturday was the show.
So I found as an athlete that posing to me ended up being the thing. It brought a hardness to my physique. It alleviated the need to have to do, a bunch of cardio, because those posing sessions would be hard, and I'd pose until I'd be sweating it out. And it gained great endurance for being on stage as well. The things I've heard you say. So did it bring out more definition for you, not just muscle control? Did it bring out the little fibers on your body as well?
Sure. That's what the contest is all about. So it's important to practice what it's all about rather than other things, rather than the ancillary stuff. And not that that's important, but as you get closer to the show, you should rely more on posing to get that effect.
Right. I've seen a
For
lot of
example, holding each pose longer periods of time, yet being relaxed.
Right. I've seen a lot of competitors get up on stage, and it became immediately obvious that they weren't practicing their posing prior to that show.
No.
And so I hesitate. I'd hesitate to when they would come to ask me as a judge for some information on how they could be better. I didn't want to insult a bunch of them, but I'd hit them with the truth, and I'd let them know that that posing was it, and it was so big that unfortunately a lot of them weren't willing to put in that kind of time. And I found it, like you, to be very, very helpful. So let me ask you one more good question. You mentioned the negative training that you did in your prep in the late 70s. And I really like that, because there seemed to be a difference in your physique in 79, especially compared to 77, 78. You were a little bit heavier. I did not know that it was from, emphasizing negative training. Was that negative only training, meaning overloading with more weight than you could possibly lift and having a training partner there to safely help it back up? Or was it, just slowing down the negatives to a great degree?
It was about slowing down the negatives. I
Mm-hmm.
never had anybody do that for me,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the times I was training by myself, nobody around.
Oh, wow. So in 79, you were training by yourself most of that time?
I don't know if it's most, but a lot of the time I was.
Wow. Wow. So I take it you trained with your wife quite a bit as well. You've mentioned that before.
I have, yes.
And your wife was a competitor as well when she was younger?
She won Miss Americana in 1967, Miss Universe Bikini at the London Universe in 1970. Excuse me.
Yes.
But she was interested in it mainly for the travel, not so much for the competition. She liked going places with me.
Oh, right on, right on. And you met her at one of these contests, or where did you meet her?
No. She was a sister of a student when I taught school.
Oh,
And I got introduced, and then we started dating. And then a year later, we got married.
wow. See, we used to refer to you guys as the pretty couple, between you, your face, her face. the very first magazine that I was ever introduced to in bodybuilding, my uncle took me to a Boyer Co. seminar at Bath Beach Bodybuilding in New York. I'm originally from New York, and it was right after the 1979 Olympia. So the magazine that was right there, they were giving out for free that day, was the Muscle Builder or Muscle Builder / Fitness. And on the cover was your face with Christine behind you.
Well, I remember that issue.
Yes, great issue. Great issue. So it was a very influential magazine to myself. I have to thank you not only for your time today, Frank, but also, over the years, I've mentioned to you before that, between that influence you didn't know, but that was my very first bodybuilding magazine. So as someone who has admired you as an athlete over the years, I'll let you know that magazine really set the tone early on. I was, of course, interested eventually in the training of Mike Mentzer, but physique-wise, I really did relate to your physique more than anybody else's. And so much so that when I finally competed as a teenager, I was wearing your posing trunks. I bought them from your website. So thank you for that too. And then when the day came when I won the natural Mr. Universe, I emailed you out of the blue just to say thank you for the inspiration. And I sent you a picture and you wrote me back right away and complimented my physique. So I appreciate that as well. So it's nice to get to speak to you in person and spend a minute with you just for my subscribers who may not, a lot of them, they don't know who the most aesthetic Mr. Olympia of all time has been. And that's what I'm calling you, the most aesthetic Mr. Olympia of all time. So you're one of the greats, and I very much appreciate your time today. And hopefully we could do it again sometime in the near future.
Great. I had a rhyme for that, and it is muscles tensed, relaxed face, feeling ease, crowd pleasing confidence. Muscles tense, relaxed face, feeling ease, crowd pleasing confidence. It's a good one to think of when you're on stage.
Yes. Thank you so much today for your time. Frank Zane, 3-time Mr. Olympia, one of the greatest ever. Appreciate you so much. Appreciate your wisdom. Appreciate your knowledge, the nuggets. If you have anything to say to subscribers, if you have any wisdom bombs you want to drop on them, feel free. You have anything you want to sign off with, feel free.
Just check out my website. Everything I have is there. My 2 main books are 91 Day Wonder Body, a great workbook, and then the textbook, Zane Bodybuilding Manual, which is pretty much everything I know about bodybuilding.
Wow.
So between those two.
Hold that book up again. Hold it up a little higher. Yes. There it is. That's the physique right there. That's it. One of the greatest of all time. Thank you, Frank.
Well,
I'll be sure to direct everybody to your website. I really appreciate you signing off. Have yourself a great day, but hold on till when we're done, okay?
All right. Thank you. My pleasure.
If you like this video, please hit the like button. It's that thumbs up button off to your left and down below. And please consider subscribing to Mr. America Heart. I look forward to presenting great new videos in the future to you. Thank you.